Welcome to Live with Crabtree Coaching Collaborative, your compass for educational excellence. Now, as instructional leaders, we want to avoid that overwhelming sense of burnout and exhaustion because of all of those different competing priorities. We want to avoid our staff members becoming utterly frustrated because they cannot keep up with the demands. And let's face it, we want to avoid just having that lack of confidence because we don't feel like we're making any progress. That's why you're here, right? My name is Alyssa Crabtree, and with over 16 years of experience, I am here to help you gain clarity, amplify your learning like never before, and hone in on intentionality. This is where transformation begins, and excellence is always the standard. Remember, we are in this together, my friends, so let's do this thing.
Thank you too, but I can't hear you, so I can only read your lips.
No, you know what? That is technology. My daughter was going to dance, so I was telling them goodbye. And but I was in it to win it.
Okay, I'm like, I can read what she's saying.
So what I was saying, everyone, is that I'm so glad that you're here with us tonight. Miss Gaby Jordan has joined us. She is the founder of Human Better EDU. And for everyone new here, Gaby, go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself.
Sure. Let's see. Well, I am by background a lawyer. I practiced law for 15 years in Midtown Manhattan, a commercial civil litigator. And then I did something completely different for a couple of years in the business world. And I was approached by two founders of my former company who said, "We're starting a coaching company. Would you join us?" And they asked me to be a corporate consultant, which I said yes. And then soon after I got, they said, "Would you run our education division?" So that's what I've been doing for the past 18 years. And a couple of years ago, we started Human Better EDU, where it took everything I did from the education world and brought it to a nonprofit because we really wanted to expand our reach to be able to serve more people, to serve more communities, and to broaden our global reach, which we have.
I love that, Gaby. And I always say an educated society is a prosperous society. And as a civilian on the outside, before you were in education, when you started consulting educators, were there any mind-blowing things that you were like, "Oh, I never knew this," or "I didn't know that you were experiencing this"?
So I have to say, first of all, education was always very important to me, and I have to credit my mother for that. My mother was an immigrant to this country, and when she came here, she wanted me to have a better life.
Mhm.
And so she put me in a school. When I was 2 years old, she put me on a waiting list for a school, Quaker school, which I then started when I was 5 and attended for 13 years. So education was always really important. And so I always appreciated the educators I had that cared about their students, that really went the extra mile. Even when I was in law school, my very first professor in law school was someone who made a tremendous difference for me because of the authenticity and the caring with which she approached the classroom and a lack of hierarchy and more of willingness to teach and learn. And so for me, being able to serve and support educators is close to my heart because value of education, yes, but also educators are really responsible for the future of our world. And so for me, being able to sit in that seat, and actually, what I do, I actually do corporate consulting still to this day and have been, as well as running our education concerns. And I love that we do both because there is a synergy to that. But really, starting and running this nonprofit, it is all about what are we doing for kids to add to what's already in traditional education, to have them to enhance their experience. And it starts with educators. So we coach both students and teachers and administrators and deans, anyone responsible for supporting students.
Mhm.
So that entry point and having educators really be inspired in their own life is something that's important to me. And frankly, I guess I didn't realize, this is back to your question, long answer. I didn't realize how challenged and burned out they were. And so that's one of the things I started seeing, where they're not getting the benefits in their own life. And so that was one of the things that was really important to me.
How does Human Better EDU support educators in finding that balance?
We start with having people dream.
Hmm.
And why we start with having people dream is because, frankly, as adults, we've lost that muscle. There was a study that George Lans did for NASA years ago, and he put 1,600 students in a study and measured their creativity every 5 years. So when they were 5 years old, they had 98% creativity. When they were 10 years old, they had 30%. When they were 15, it went down to 12%. And when they were 31, it went down to 2%.
Wow.
And because of that, we've lost that muscle in dreaming. And we find that really getting people happy and proud and inspired in their life is about connecting to their dreams. So what we do is we connect people to their dreams in 12 different areas of their life so that they can really see like what would inspire them, what would move them. And so we teach them that because they're doing that also in the classroom, right? Whatever they're teaching with, in order to get students interested, to get them compelled, it includes inspiration. And so you want to give people the muscle to actually be able to be willing to dream again so that they can really provide what students need in order to be inspired.
Gaby, that's beautiful. Currently, I'm reading Adam Grant's Hidden Potential, and it's in the part where they're talking about our discomfort in being uncomfortable, and that goes part of creativity. The older that we get, the more hesitant we are to put ourselves in uncomfortable situations, which creativity and dreaming, those
That's
can
right.
be uncomfortable.
That's
So
right.
when you're working with someone who is very hesitant to open up about their dreams, or if they're just like, I don't know what I dream for, how do you help them work through that?
Well, mostly people don't dream. Just saying. By the time you're an adult, what's that? I got things to do. Right? Like I'm not like what? Listen, me too. I am guilty as charged, right? But I saw for myself that why I wasn't dreaming, or certainly why I wasn't dreaming big, is because I was afraid I wasn't going to get there. And so that's what happens, that as you get older and older, you get more realistic. And what could I actually do? And the issue is, or not the issue, but we don't want people to start from the how you're going to get there. We want you to start with the vision. So by separating things out and not making it a huge dream and making it like, okay, if you had what you wanted on a scale of 1 to 10 in this particular area of your life, and as I say, there are 12 of them that we start people working with, what would it look like a year from now? Making it a year from now has it be not so far in the distance that it's intimidating, but it's also has it be in closer proximity so that you can really touch it. And it doesn't have to be the big, massive dream, but something big and bold for you that you could actually say, okay, I could actually maybe have that. Don't worry about the how, but what would it be if it was a 9 or a 10 on a scale of 1 to 10 a year from now? And that's how we start. And what we find is that you need to actually work with people to craft their dreams, because we're not taught how to craft them. And we want you to craft them in a way that's inspiring, compels you, has your heart in it. So there's a particular way that we coach people on crafting their dreams so that it really does inspire them, which
Yeah.
acts as your GPS.
I love the visual of it being your GPS because people truly are. The older we get, or I notice in myself, sometimes I become stagnant with my creativity. And I also know that in the world of education currently, there is a heavy, heavy, heavy reliability on computer programs and scripted curriculum. And it has killed the creativity or the problem solving skills of our educators. I see it like, we'll be sitting around a table and it's like, okay, let's plan some innovative ways and learning experience for our students. And everyone just kind of like, whoa, 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 hold on. That's not what it says in the that's not what it says on the computer. This is where we're supposed to be. And so I know that education cannot be the only profession where this happens. And how can we as a society, as people who support education, help our systems get out of this rut?
Well, there are lots of different ways to encourage creativity and play. And some of it is tapping into the things that you actually love to do that move you. So for some people, it's music. For some people, it's art. For some people, it's nature. So there is really finding what's the thing that's inspirational to you. And you're not stuck with it. You could try that. It doesn't work so well. Go take a dance class. Try. There are just being willing to do something different already starts to open that door. And in answer to your question about, why people stop, I think that in our systems, in our traditional education systems, we've been mandated, right? And, how often do we hear, oh, they're teaching to the test, right? Given that there's certain mandates of what has to be accomplished, it's harder, right? And so it really is, as one of your listeners, I guess, is saying, they're afraid to teach differently because they don't want to get in trouble. Like, nobody wants to get in trouble. Let me do what's safe.
Yeah.
Right. And we really have to start to be willing to encourage people to think differently and to go for something that's different. And maybe it's baby steps, but how to put that in.
Yeah. I work alongside instructional coaches and principals and superintendents. And one of the things that I see their frustration with is they're like, why are these educators or principals or so forth, why are they not listening to my feedback? And I'm like, you have to understand you're dealing with people with multiple degrees who, are perfectionists in their own right. And getting something wrong can be terrifying. And we're dealing with egos. We all have them. Whereas when you're younger, you don't necessarily have that ego. So feedback's a little easier to take. And so I definitely see a guard up. And I think that trust factor is so big, and getting teachers to trust themselves, principals to trust themselves, superintendents. Melissa's adding here, we need to remember that students are people too. They need the human to be a part of their learning.
Yes. Yes. It's so true. It's so true. One of the classes that we were teaching, so one of the things we do when we go into schools and teach is we like to teach with the educator or the teacher in the classroom because they know them. Students relate to them. Yeah. Students can get inspired by them. And so we'll do these life design courses, and we'll have the teachers participate with the students. And it's so inspiring when the students hear from the teachers what they're up to, or that they have fears, or that they have concerns, or that they, have a promise and they broke it. Oh, and they had to keep their incentive, right? Like, that they're in the game as well. And that kind of humanity, when it gets brought to students. It's like when I mentioned before this law school professor of mine, who was this brilliant woman, and we don't need the formality of downstairs. I mean, we were a small class, 30 students, not the big lecture hall. And having that relatability made a difference. And here I was in law school, bajillion years later, right? But it makes a difference in the way that students learn and risks they're willing to take.
Yeah.
Right. So Melissa's right. If you have that human that can make the difference, there's countless people who are like that third grade math teacher that actually encouraged you to go beyond what you think you could do.
So, kind of talking about that, I know that Human Better EDU, some of the work that you do is to support innovation in the classroom. Can you give us that? I figured that is one example of it. Can you give us another example of how Human Better EDU supports that innovation?
Sure. So one of the things, when I say we enhance traditional education, we're not teaching people traditional subjects, history, math, calculus.
Yes.
It's a funny story. When I went to do a keynote at the University of Nebraska, and I was doing it for an entire group of scientists. Okay, that was God laughing at me. Okay, just saying, because I said the first thing I said when I set up, I said, the good news for you is I am not here to teach you anything about science. That would be bad. My last science class was 10th grade biology, but I am here to support you in actually being able to dream. Anyway, I digress. So what we do in terms of innovation is the class that we bring is really about life design and tools for designing your life. And so again, we start with dreaming. We then look to see, okay, what are the voices that you have in your head that keep you from actually going for the thing that you want?
Yeah.
So where are you the creator? So there are places, all of us, big, small, where we've been the creator in our lives. We have created something. We said, we're going to make it happen, come hell or high water, and we did it. As the creator, we experienced something, a pride that came with that, just a feeling about ourselves. We want people to remember that. And then there are the areas where we're not quite so proud. Oops, that one, I don't think I can do anything about it. What we do is we give participants, I'm going to say, because it's students or teachers, the ability to recognize the voices that keep them stuck in their head and not going for being the creator.
Oh my gosh, yes.
So there's the voice of the observer, like you're like a reporter. Oh yeah, that's how life is going. Yeah, there's nothing I can do about it. There is the little mouse who's just afraid to do anything. They're scared. I better not. It's scary. And then there is the defiant one, sometimes called a brat, sometimes called, we all have them, right? The 4-year-old in an adult body saying, I don't want to, and you can't make me. Defiant, right? So by having people be able to start to see where those voices are stopping them from going for their dream, they already have more power. They already can recognize where they haven't been true to themselves, where they've let those justifications interfere with the dream that they say they want.
Yeah.
And so that's the inquiry that we start with, where we have them start playing with, and what would you want to create? Let's just say you don't have to worry about the how. What would you want to make happen? And create that dream and craft it in a way that it's in the present tense, inspiring to you, speaks from your heart. And then we have them play with, okay, how do we get there? I had a teenager say, it was in one of our earliest classes in New York City in public school system. What'd you get out of the class? I said, and I asked the whole class, and she said, we're always taught to dream, but we're not told how to get there. And now I see that there's actually a path to get there.
Yeah.
And that's a big deal. It's a big deal.
And it's an uncomfortable path, but it's one very much worth taking. And too often I see individuals who are unhappy with their life.
Mm,
But when they took that first step out, it didn't work right off the bat. So they immediately retreated.
right, right.
And I'm like, we have to, it goes back to what Adam Grant said. We have to be okay with being uncomfortable.
Yes. Yes. And we have to, as a society, and I'm going to say as a Western society, we have to be better about our relationship to failure, because we make it mean the world is over. If we recognize that it's just iterative and we're figuring it out, and you know what? I love this expression. I'm going to forget the attribution, but it's you're either winning or learning. If we related to it like that, like we're learning something, I just heard it in one of my mentors, Evan Pagan, said, he was quoting the Einstein, 10,000 tries, and people said, you've been failing so much, He's like, no, I actually have been failing. I've been learning with each iteration which filament doesn't work for electricity.
Yeah.
And so when we can start bringing to mind the teachers, the inventors or the basketball players, or Michael Jordan took more shots he blew it than got in, but that's how he got them in, right? So if they can start depending on your particular field, there's someone you can point to who is tremendously successful, and they're tremendously successful because they've been willing to go for something, right? So, as someone else says, being willing to fail on stage, being willing to fail forward. That's something that we need to teach people. And listen, I am not perfect in this. I am the biggest, I want to look good. I want to be perfect. So I am not saying I'm not that human, but recognizing that we all have this gives it a little bit more freedom.
Absolutely. I think there are a lot of school districts that I work alongside. They have mottos or little sayings within their larger mission and vision of failing forward. And they always, proclaim we fail forward. But when I work inside with them, everyone is scared to fail forward. Everyone. And so I think, yes, I love that school districts are saying that and other organizations are saying that. However, if you're going to say it, make it an expectation. I want to see your failures today.
Yes.
It's like today I started our live talking all excited, but I was on mute. It's okay. I'm okay with that.
Right.
We need to make it an expectation.
Yes.
And I think that's important.
It's true. It's true. I mean, it brings humanity, right? It's just, and people love that.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh man. And I don't know if you noticed Miss Lee at Ed Consulting, she just said Gaby is a badass. So I loved that. And even Ashley Colquitt is saying she loves this. This is information that I think so many people are afraid to talk about.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know why they're afraid to, maybe it is being uncomfortable, afraid to talk about it. So you also talk about dream recognition, and you walked us through a little bit about how, the steps that you take and what is holding you back.
Mm-hmm.
Can you tell us about a time that you experienced a breakthrough with an individual who was able to really recognize their dream and how it impacted their future self?
I was just thinking of a client that I have, who I had for 4 years. And he had recently a little while ago, a successful event, which is to say that the company that he was working with went public, and he made a good deal of money as a result of it. And we had a conversation. He said, do you remember when we first started working together? I didn't even have a budget. know what my money, like who he had to become to train himself to pay attention to his finances because he came from, a very impoverished background,
Mhm.
right? And so the who he's become in his life for himself is some completely different. I mean, at the core are the same, but the opportunities that he's been able to provide, the work that he's able to do in philanthropy, the things that he's able to do for his family, which he never could have done if he hadn't gotten hip to what's underneath. What's the inner dialogue? That's one of the things we talk about, inner monologues, inner dialogue. What's the things that are stopping us? That was something that was not even on the radar screen. But
Yeah.
when people get committed to working on themselves and moving their lives forward, they can make miracles happen for themselves.
Mm. That's beautiful. Man, Gaby, you are adding so much value to the world.
Oh,
And
thank you.
Human Better EDU, educators, educational leaders, if you have the opportunity, I want you, first of all, to look up humanbetteredu.org because our school system needs this. This is something, when we talk about how we can support the educational system, this is it. Because we need to bring back the humanity to it. Now, Gaby, I know that you have an offer for our audience tonight. Can you tell us about what that is?
Sure. So I have a couple of different things. So one thing is just a tool. Okay. So
Mhm.
I talk to you about dreaming and I talk to you about recognizing the voices. And then one of the things we do is we want people to be able to, and we didn't talk about this, but if you want to change anything in your life, you need four things. You need a clear objective, you need a clear promise, something you're going to do, specific, quantifiable in a dimension of time. You need an incentive to keep that promise, and you need someone to hold you accountable. Four things. Okay. Sometimes promises live like New Year's resolution, and we're coming up to that time where people are going to make New Year's resolution, and 2 weeks later it'll be bye bye. What?
Yep.
Right. So one of the things that I have as a giveaway, if you will, is a list of possible incentives to keep your promise.
Ooh.
Ways that you can actually keep your promise to support you to get to your dream.
Wow.
So you've got dreaming, you've got a way to get there, and you want to create an incentive. So this is just a list to give people ideas, but you can create any one that works for you.
Mhm.
And let me be very clear what this incentive is. It's not a reward. People often say, well, couldn't I just have a reward to keep? Yes, you can. And if it works for you, great. But working with thousands of people, we find that you need something to motivate you. So sometimes it's like a negative incentive, or sometimes it's like doing a nice thing for somebody. I had another client who had to do a certain number of interviews a week. And if he didn't, he had to do a favor. He had to do something off the honeydew list for his wife on the weekends. Now, it's not a bad thing. It's not horrible. She appreciates it, but it's better. Go do your interviews, right? So you've got to find the thing that works for you. And I like to joke, I had one client who was a big beer drinker, and if he didn't keep his promise, he couldn't have his beer at night.
Oh, yes.
If you told me that, it wouldn't make a difference to me because I do not drink beer. Now, if you say I can't have my wine, now we are talking. Right?
Yes.
So the thing is, we're gamifying this structure so that you can really get the thing that works for you. And if you implement this, you are going to move yourself up the scale towards your dream. You got to create the dream first, right? You got to create it. But then you look to see what's the promise I could put in place that will actually get me to my dream. And
Oh,
then what's the
cool.
incentive I need? And then make sure you get someone to hold you accountable. It should not be your drinking buddy because they will not do a good
No,
job.
don't,
No,
not the drinking
no.
buddy.
But somebody who cares about your dream. So anyway, so that's the giveaway, is a list of possible incentives. So people go and they sign up to the website, they'll be able to get that.
Challenge accepted on that. Viewers, I'm going to kind of expose my dream. I'll do a live where I expose my dream, but I'm going to talk about my incentives.
Oh, cool. Love that.
Where can they access this, Gaby? Is this in your newsletter?
Yes, what you can either go to the newsletter, so the link will actually take you to sign up for our newsletter, which is
Okay.
monthly. You get some tips, coaching, tips and tricks, as my folks like to call them. And then and so if you sign up to that, then we'll send you out that incentive list.
Gotcha. I just actually dropped it in the chat as well.
Right.
So anyone who wants access to that, Gaby, is there anything else that you're getting? I know there was something else, correct?
Yes, correct. So we are also planning to do a monthly session for educators, and it's free. It's going to be once a month. And the plan is to start in January 2024. And if you go to that same link and you click on interested in more information about that, you'll be able to find out. We'll follow up with you on that as well.
Oh, I'm going to share this in my newsletters as well. So anyone who's on my email list, I'm going to put it. And so Jenny just asked, can we put the link here in the comments? I think I just did, Jenny, but let me try it again. I'm going to put it again. You all let me know if you cannot see it.
Oh, it looks like it's there.
And Jenny, give me a thumbs up if you are able to access that. I'm also going to put all of these links in the show notes. So hopefully we can all get those. Let me make sure one more time. I'm going to put that in there. Okay, Gaby, where can our audience members find you?
You can find me at humanbetteredu.org. So my email is Gaby, Gaby, that's like baby with a G, at humanbetteredu.org.
Excellent. And I know you also have a new Instagram account.
We do. Thank you, our magical nymph, Ayla.
Go, Ayla.
Ayla.
She's amazing. Oh, thank you, Gaby, so much for joining us tonight. This conversation has been extremely valuable. If you missed any of it, know that you can go to YouTube and watch it on the replay. Be sure to check out humanbetteredu.org and be sure to follow Gaby because she's awesome and is a wealth of knowledge. So thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much. The time flew. It was so much fun. A blast.
We'll do it again.
Excellent.
Excellent. Good night, everyone.
Okay. Good night.